Good morning, Professor Link here.
Hey, good morning, Roger.
Good morning.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. How are you
How
today?
is everything?
Yeah, everything is okay. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Well,
Thanks a
thank you
lot.
so much for accepting it. I'm really very happy to see you here today and
Yeah,
have
thank
the
you.
privilege of introducing you in a moment.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
All right. I'm checking
yeah,
the connection. Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, very, very well. Thank
All
you.
right, very good. I
Yeah.
can hear you too. I'm switching up the volume a little bit, and yes, indeed, that's getting a little bit louder now, so that's very, very good. I think we are set for a very fine workshop, Roger, because we have like 160 people signed up.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to be famous.
Oh, thanks a lot. I also received your email. I'll be presenting English today.
All right, very good.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
everything in English from beginning to end. That's very, very good.
Thank you.
So that's very clear. Indeed, I think for some colleagues, this workshop needs to be in English. This is something I realized last night. It needs to be in English because I think it counts towards their sort of certification and accreditation under the project, right? If some schools have the kind of a 双语教学计划, then if people participate in this workshop, it counts towards their accreditation as teachers, and so that's quite important. All right, let's check the time. Well, okay, it is 8:53, so we still have 7 minutes before we begin. You are aware of the fact that this is being recorded, right?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, no problem.
So that's not a problem.
Yeah.
So that's good. So, okay, people are joining. Right, okay. So, the camera seems to be fine. The microphone is fine. So all of that is good. So one thing you probably need to check on your side is the sharing of the screen, because I assume you will have materials to share, right?
Yeah.
Did you check that yesterday?
Yeah, I did. I did with Patty.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So everything is all set.
Yeah, thank you.
You know, because the thing is, even though these technologies are supposed to be quite mature and everybody is supposed to be very familiar with them, things still happen sometimes. I had this experience when I was teaching. You know, we were online twice, 2 years ago and again last year, towards the end of the semester. And in spite of everything, all kinds of stuff happens with the online connections, with the applications, the students doing stuff, the sharing of the screen, right? So I'm glad that you checked everything yesterday and everything is ready. Good,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah. Technical issues happen all the time, you know.
It happens. It really happens. It's very unfortunate. So let's see. I need to angle my camera in such a way. Very good. So yeah, you have a nice wallpaper. It's like something from a fairy tale.
Oh, you know, like I'm in my room now, so like my room is very messy, so I need to find a background picture.
Right. I'm in my office, so you know it's kind of very plain for me. When I teach, I tend to do it from my study room, and I have a nice sort of bookshelf. You know, so that kind of works out for me with books in the background.
Is it raining in Taichung now?
It's not raining right now, but it did rain quite hard.
Okay.
2 days ago, yesterday, and again last night it was raining for a while.
Yeah. Same here in Hsinchu.
Yeah, you get a lot more rain up north, I think.
Yeah, it rained very heavily this morning, but the rain has already stopped.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Oh, so you are in Hsinchu now?
Yeah, I'm in Hsinchu, and then I'll go to Taipei after today's talk.
Okay.
I have a class in the afternoon. Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Well, sorry to keep you so busy on a teaching day.
I know.
Friday is a good time for workshops.
Yeah,
People
like,
around the country, they tend to be available. at this
Yeah.
time.
And also like weekend is coming, that people feel more relaxed,
That's
on
right.
Friday morning.
That's right. Many people finish their teaching by maybe yesterday. Good. We have 3 minutes to go. I'll check with the teaching assistant that everything is ready there.
Okay, thank you.
Your connection is fine? Your connection is fine, no problem? Okay. So we start at 9 o'clock, right? Is that right? Okay, I don't know. Okay. So, Roger, maybe in a moment, perhaps I will wait 1 or 2 minutes over time before I start.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, it's 8:58, but what happens is that people are a little bit late checking in. And also what we can expect is that although 160 people signed up, we probably will not have as many people, because what happens is people sign up and sometimes at the last moment stuff happens. And then they remain absent. They don't participate. So what I see right now is that we are at 47 participants. So we'll give people a few more minutes.
No problem. Thank you.
Hi, Roger. Hi, Hank. Good morning.
Hey.
Hi, Sophia.
Hey,
Morning.
good morning, Nani. Yeah.
Long
Morning.
time no see.
Long time no see. Yeah. How's everything, Nani?
So,
How's everything?
Roger,
Can you hear me clearly? Yes?
She
Is
probably,
everything? Oh, okay.
she probably lost the connection there for a moment.
Okay.
So Nani, Roger was saying good morning. How's everything?
Roger, where are you at?
I'm in my room.
Oh, there's something wrong with my earphone. Sorry. Can't
Okay.
hear you.
Yeah, you couldn't hear us. So good morning, everybody. It is 9 o'clock, but we will maybe wait 1 or 2 more minutes because a few more people will be checking in a moment.
Roger, sorry. I lost connection.
No problem. Is my voice clear now? Yes? Everything
Very
okay?
clear. Yeah.
Okay. Good morning,
Yeah.
Nai. Morning.
Morning. Yeah. Where are you at? Your background is interesting.
I'm in Hsinchu. I'm in my yeah, at my home. Yeah.
That's so nice.
I just told Professor Vinkyo that my room is very messy, so I need to choose a background image for today.
Yeah, that's a nice background.
Yes,
Very cool.
today he has become a hobbit. It's like an image from the Lord of the Rings. Okay, it is now 9:02. I believe we should begin. I know some people are still checking in, but that's okay. Let me begin with my introduction. So, good morning, colleagues and friends here on the campus of Tung Hai University and around the country, wherever you may be. Good morning to you. Before I introduce today's speaker, Professor Roger Wang, I would like to take a moment to thank the sponsors of today's workshop, namely the Ministry of Education, and more specifically the so-called BEST project, the Bilingual Education for Students in the College of Management project, which we have here, which we are responsible for in the English Language Center, together with our colleagues in the College of Management. So many thanks to the Ministry of Education for its sponsorship. Today's speaker, Professor Roger Wang, is currently an associate professor in the English department at National Taiwan Normal University. He also obtained his PhD from National Taiwan Normal University. And so I think the fact that he is now teaching there says quite a lot about the excellence which he brings to his profession as a teacher and a young scholar. He must have liked National Taiwan Normal University because he got his PhD there and is now teaching there, but also they must have liked him quite a lot. He must have been a very good student, otherwise they would not bring him back to be a colleague and a teacher in their specific department. He obtained his PhD there in, I believe it was 2012, and after maybe 1 or 2 years, he then joined the faculty there and has been teaching there. He is a specialist in creativity and English language teaching, also perhaps foreign language acquisition, indeed, second language acquisition, foreign language acquisition, and language creativity and intercultural competence. He has been publishing quite a lot. He has an extensive list of journal articles and book chapters, all of them published in very good national and international journals, Innovation in Language Learning and Teaching, the TESOL Journal, Education and Information Technology, Language Teaching Research, and a number of other well-known journals in the field. I find it also very remarkable that ever since he began his career, he has actually been doing national science projects, National Science and Technology Council projects, pretty much every year. So from the time when he started, he got the Distinguished Young Scholar or Promising Young Scholar research grant. And then after that, he followed up and pretty much has done a 1 or 2 year or multi-year project pretty much every year throughout his career over the past decade. So I think we have a very, distinguished and knowledgeable expert in the field who today will be speaking about teaching strategies for English medium instruction in higher education. So without further ado, let me yield the floor to our speaker, Professor Roger Wang, and give him the opportunity to begin his presentation. Professor Wang, you have the floor.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Professor Vink here, and thank you, Nanyu, and everybody, all the friends who are online now. Okay. Thank you very much, Professor Vink here, for the very nice introduction and also the warm welcome. Okay. But first of all, let me make sure that is my voice clear to everyone. Everybody, yes?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. And thank you very much for the invitation. And today I'll be speaking on the topic, teaching strategies for English media instruction in higher education. And actually, I'm not an EMI expert. I'm a TESOL researcher, but due to my training in TESOL, I research classroom discourse and also professional development for teachers. So in these few years, because of the bilingual education policy, I have been working with many bilingual teachers and also researchers who care about bilingual education. And today, many of the teaching strategies that I will be introducing are actually not my own ideas. They actually come from books I read or classes I observed or discussion I had with bilingual teachers or teachers who are doing bilingual education or EMI. And many of the teaching strategies that I'll be sharing are actually not new, okay? They are actually the techniques or methods you have been doing or trying in your classes. But in EMI classes, those strategies are even more important because your students are learning content in a language they are still learning, okay? So we need to think about how to scaffold our students, and sometimes it's even necessary for us to reconsider our classroom design, our lesson design, our curricular design, okay? So I hope that all the information I'll be sharing with you will be helpful and useful to your teaching, okay? So first of all, let me share my screen with everyone, okay? So please give me a second. Okay, so is everything clear? Yes? Can you see my
Yes.
screen? Okay, good. Okay,
Very
so
nice.
this is the topic for today, teaching strategies for English medium instruction in higher education. Okay, and here is a little bit more information about me. Actually, I graduated from Donghai in 2003, okay? And I feel very honored to be invited to give a talk and share my experiences at my alma mater, okay? And after I graduated from Donghai, I got my MA in TESOL from National Kaohsiung Normal University and also my PhD in TESOL at National Taiwan Normal University. So as you can see here, I'm a language trained teacher or researcher. And I started my teaching career at NTNU in 2016. And before I joined NTNU, I worked at Simpson Junior College of Medical Care and Management for 6.5 years. And then I taught at Sayasen University for 1.5 years. And besides research and also teaching, I'm also working with the Ministry of Education to promote TETE. TET is short for Teaching English Through English in elementary and junior high schools, okay? And also in NTNU, we have a bilingual education research center that is mainly responsible for teacher training for secondary schools and also developing materials for bilingual education. And I'm in charge of materials development section, okay? So this is a bit more information about me, okay? You know, I'm a very interactive teacher, and I love interacting with my audience when I'm speaking in front of a group of audience. But one thing that I don't know how to do is, you know, when I'm sharing online, I cannot see my audience faces. I'm not really sure if everybody is following me well, or if anyone has any questions. So I design questions to have some interaction with you on Slido. Okay, have you ever used Slido before? If you have ever used Slido.com, I think you know that Slido is a platform for teacher or for presenters to have interaction with audience. Okay, so could you please scan this QR code and go to Slido.com? Okay, or you can just go to Slido.com and enter this code. Then you can join my page. Okay, you can join my page as a participant. Okay, so so this morning, you probably need your smartphone all the time because we will have some discussion activities, okay? And you can put your smartphone beside you. So whenever it's necessary, you can grab your smartphone and answer my questions, okay? So I'm gonna give you 2 minutes to join my page on Slido, okay? So I'm gonna stop here for 2 minutes, okay? I'll check the attendance, the participation on Slido.com, okay? Could you join Slido, my page on slido.com? Okay, okay, good. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so is everybody on slido.com? Yes. Okay. If you are already on slido.com, could you please type yes in the chat box so I can make sure that we are on the same page? Okay. Okay. I see 2 yeses in the chat box. Okay. So when you are ready, when you are on slido.com, could you please type yes in the chat box? Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. So I'm gonna give you 1 more minute. Okay, I'm gonna give you 1 more minute. Okay, I'm gonna give you 1 more minute. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Professor Vink here. We have 30 more seconds. Okay, we have 30 more seconds. Okay, 18 more seconds. Okay, so is everybody ready? Okay, shall we move on? Okay, shall we move on? Okay, so let's move on. So the first question I want to ask you is, I want everybody to rate your readiness to teach English a scale from 1 to 5. Okay, 1 means not very ready, 5 is ready. So where do you think you are at this moment on the scale? Okay, so could you please choose either 1 to 5? Okay, choose a number on the scale 1 to 5. Okay. So I'm gonna give you maybe like 1 more minute for this. Okay, 1 more minute for this. And I'll check your responses. Okay, I'll check your responses online. Okay, I see 38 participants on slido.com now. Okay, 39. And 39 participants already answered the first question. Okay, so please rate your readiness to teach English on a scale from 1 to 5. Okay. Okay, maybe 30 more seconds. Okay, 30 more seconds. Okay, 42. I see 42 responses on slido.com now. Okay. Okay. So I think maybe we can move on. Okay, I think we can move on now. Okay. Yeah, good to know that 36% of you selected 5 means you are already very ready. Okay, which is very good to know. Okay, and 28% selected 4. Okay, 26% selected 3, and only a few teachers who think they are not ready yet. Okay, but I think today's the objective of today's talk is to share with you some teaching strategies that you may adopt in your classes. So hopefully you can take away some ideas about how to facilitate your teaching in your EMI classes today. Okay, so let's move on to the second question. The second question for today is, I'd like everybody to think about this. Have you ever used English to learn a subject other than English? Okay, so here the focus is on a subject other than English. Maybe you learn chemistry or physics or other content subjects in English. So do you have such experience in learning a content subject in English? Okay, so let me check the responses on slido.com again. I move on to the next one. Oh, I already see 25 responses on slido.com. Now, most of you have such experience, which is very good to know, right? Okay, 75% and 25% have never used English to teach a subject, okay? And 40 responses. Okay. Okay, so now let's move on to the next question. Next question for today is, Next question for today is, if you have experience in EMI, what courses have you ever taught through English? Could you type the course titles? Okay, so we can take a look at the course you have ever taught in English. Maybe you can just name 1 or 2 courses if you have already taught different courses in English. Economics, financial management, and physics. Mandarin in English. Introduction to political science and academic writing. Okay, accounting and no thanks. Literature. MIS. What is MIS short for? And physics. Okay. Research methods. And translation theories, airplane facility. Okay. Accounting principle, economics, literary theory and European literature, statistics, financial management, accounting, social linguistics, cross-culture communication, discussion and writing. Research methods, intercultural competencies, civil class, and the stories of Formosa. Okay, and we'll be waiting a few more seconds. And research methodology. Okay, and international relations. Okay, good. Thank you very much for your input, your insights. Okay, so most of you have taught content subject in English, and you also share with us the course titles that you have ever taught through English and linguistics. Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Okay. So MIS is short for Management Information System. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much. Let me go back to my slides. Okay. I think it's very good for me to understand your backgrounds and also your experiences before we officially start today's, officially start my sharing. Okay. So So this is the outline for today, okay? As mentioned earlier, my topic today is teaching strategies for EMI. So even though my focus is on teaching strategies today, I think it's very important to first discuss the definition of EMI and also the working definition of EMI in Taiwan. And what is also more important is to understand our context. After all, teaching is not a one-man show, right? We teach content to our students. We want to make sure that our students are making good progress. They are learning well in our classes. So I think it's very important for us to understand our students' backgrounds, what they have learned in English language education, what they have learned in secondary schools, and etc. Okay, and also I will also be sharing some EMI teaching strategies that may help you facilitate your teaching in your classes. And point 4, I'll be talking about how to encourage students' participation. And because today I only have 2 hours, I will not be able to cover everything I think is important to you, to your EMI classes. So at the end of today's talk, I'll be sharing a few websites and also YouTube channels where you may find resources that can facilitate your teaching in your EMI classes. Okay, so this is the overview of today's talk. Okay. So first of all, let's talk about what is EMI, okay? I think everybody knows that EMI is actually not a new topic here in Taiwan. It's actually a very international topic, okay? Many higher educational institutions choose to implement EMI for many different reasons. For example, for the purpose of internationalization or recruiting more international students or enhancing international reputation of universities. Sorry, I think someone's microphone is on. So I'm not sure whose microphone is on. Okay. Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. Okay. So EMI is short for English medium instruction, or English as a medium of instruction. So as the name indicates, it means using the English language to teach academic subjects other than English itself in countries where students speak English or use English as a second or foreign language. Okay, so university professors may adopt EMI to teach courses such as like chemistry, statistics, or physics, and using English as the primary instructional language. Okay. And actually, there are some related terms, but actually they are not the same as EMI. I like to clarify the meaning of these similar related terms, in the very beginning. Okay, so maybe you have ever heard of CLIO, like Content and Language Integrated Learning. Okay, and CLIO is very commonly practiced in elementary schools here in Taiwan today because of the bilingual education policy. Okay. And what does CLIO mean? As the name, CLIO is short for Content and Language Integrated Learning, which means that CLIO has dual focuses. So teachers use CLIO to facilitate students' content knowledge and also language proficiency. For example, a science teacher in elementary school classrooms may teach parts of a plant in English. For example, vocabulary about plants, flower, bud, fruit, and etc., and also functions of these parts in a flowering plant. Okay, so this is clear. Okay, and you may also heard of EAP, right? English for academic purposes. EAP, for example, a university may have EAP programs that offer courses such as academic writing, thesis writing, presentation skills, research paper writing, and these kind of courses actually focus on developing students' English proficiency skills needed for academic purposes, okay? And also another related term is called ESP. It's also very common in university in Taiwan today, okay? ESP is short for English for specific purposes. So ESP programs may offer courses such as English for nursing, English for journalistic purposes, English for media, English for educators, and English for engineers, and English for chemists, okay? So just like EAP, ESP also focus on developing students' English proficiency skills, but this time ESP focus on language skills needed for maybe occupational purposes or specific purposes. Okay. So if we put all these terms like EMI, CLIO, EAP, and ESP on the same continuum, at one end we had language learning as the primary focus of a course. At the other end, we have learning of subject content as the primary objective. Okay, so where do you think we should put EMI, CLIO, EAP, and ESP? Okay, on this continuum. Okay, let's talk about the left-hand side first. Which do you think focus more on language learning? CLIO, EAP, ESP, or EMI? Could you type your responses in the chat box? Okay. So anybody can share your ideas. Which do you think, or which ones do you think focus more on language learning? So the goal of such programs focus on developing students' proficiency rather than the subject content knowledge. EAP, very good. Okay, anything else? EMI for content learning, okay. And CLIO, EAP, maybe CLIO, okay, very good, okay. And CLIO and EAP, okay. Okay, and which one do you think is focused more on learning of subject content? So like teacher use English to teach a course, but the objective is not on developing students' proficiency. Instead, it focuses on students' like academic concepts, their professional knowledge, EMI. Okay, very good. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for your input. Okay, so let's take a look at a chart. Okay, a diagram. This is actually adopted from another research paper. Okay, so as you can see here, ESP and EAP, yes, they focus on language learning. So even a course such as an ESP course such as English for nursing, the goal is still on developing students' English proficiency needed for the nursing career. Okay, and CLIO is actually in between, is in the middle. So CLIO has dual focuses. So teacher use English to teach subject content knowledge. So students learn not only the content, but also language. EMI, yes, EMI focuses on contents actually. So EMI teacher is actually not an English teacher. Okay, EMI teacher focuses on how to deliver the content, the subject content knowledge to students, and how to make sure that students are learning the content well, okay? So Professor DePograri and Menstrom, in their article published in 2018, actually they summarize the features of EMI courses as follows. Okay, EMI is the language used for instructional purposes. English is itself not itself the subject being taught, and language development is not a primary intended outcome. So most participants in the setting, English is a second language. So as you can see here, EMI teachers, as I mentioned earlier, EMI teachers are not language teachers. EMI teachers actually care more about how to make sure that students learn the professional knowledge, the subject content, okay, well, okay. And actually there are, I mean, in Taiwan, there are actually two types of EMI programs, okay? The first one is English only program. So as the name indicates, instructors and students, I think instructors use English 100%, like 100% of class time is conducted in English, okay? No Chinese, no translation. And English only programs immerse students in English, in the English-speaking environment, okay? English-only programs are common, especially when there are international students in the course, okay, in the course. So there is not a common language among all the students and also the faculty members and the students in the class, okay? Another type of EMI programs actually allow a small amount of Chinese and translation in the course. So teacher use English as the primary instructional language, but maybe once in a while, teacher may use Chinese or translation to scaffold students or to make sure that students understand the course content. Okay, but I think researchers supporting using two language supporting the second type claim that using two languages is actually a natural bilingual behavior. So we don't really need to limit students' use of their first language, even in the EMI classes. Okay, but I think frequent and excessive use of Chinese still should be avoided, because if we use Chinese or translation too much or too often in EMI classes, that may encourage students to listen to our Chinese translation, our Chinese explanation, rather than focus on our English lectures. Okay. Sorry, Chen Lao Shi, could you please mute yourself? I'm sorry, because your microphone is on. Okay. Sorry. Thank you. So what is the working definition of EMI in Taiwan? Okay, so according to Taiwan's BEST program stands for the Program on Bilingual Education for Students in College. It actually defines EMI as follows. Okay, for EMI courses, let me read it to you. Okay, for EMI courses, the delivery of content, whole class interaction, the learning materials, and the demonstration and assessment of learning outcomes, such as oral presentation, assignments, or tests, should be in English. Okay, so that's very fundamental to EMI classes. So everything should be hopefully conducted in English. Okay, but other languages may be used in a principal and limited way in specific circumstances. For example, when students are discussing with their peers, they may use Chinese if necessary because they have some, shared background knowledge. Okay, when teachers are interacting with students during pair work or group work, teacher may sometimes use languages other than English to aid mutual comprehension or idea generation. And however, students should be asked to present their discussion outcomes in English. So we should encourage students to use English as much as possible. And lectures should ensure that at least 70% of class communication takes place in English. So good EMI course practice should encourage the student to engage in English speaking and writing as much as possible. So I think even though the EMI classes encourage teacher and student to use English, but there is still a small room for the use of Chinese and for the use of English. And using L1 can support students' comprehension of an EMI in the EMI classes. Okay, but of course, if you have international students in your EMI classes, definitely, using Chinese or using translation may not be an ideal choice. Okay, when you are teaching on the stage. Okay. So let's move on. Before we talk about how to teach our class in EMI, I think first of all, we need to understand our context, okay, such as the student population in our classes, okay. So I'm gonna show you a few pictures on the next slide, okay. Could you please select one picture which you think can best portray your students' reactions, or students' reactions, not your student, maybe like students in general, students' reaction when they are learning in EMI classes, okay? So I have 6 different pictures, but I don't have any specific picture for F, okay? So do you think that students will look like the man in picture A, or picture B, picture C, picture D, or picture E? Or maybe you have other, choices, okay? Could you type your responses in the chat box as well? So which one do you think can best portray students' reaction in EMI classes? Okay, I think Chen Lao Shi chose C, right? B and E, C, B, right? Okay, many of you selected C, right? And Professor Vinkyo selected B. And C, 林老师 selected B, right? Okay, A and B. Okay, Caroline and 陈老师 selected B, right? Okay. Can I invite maybe like one of you to share your thoughts on this? Anybody selected B? Can anybody who selected B share your thoughts with us? Now thank you. Why did you select B?
For me, B looks like a blank face. And I don't normally teach EMI courses, but I've been teaching English for like 20 years. And that's the most common face I see students in English class, unless I force them to like do some kind of task or like call them out to speak. Basically, they're just like a blank.
Okay. So
Yeah.
like if students show this facial expression, probably we are not very sure if they are following us well, right? Okay. We are not
Right.
sure that whether they are understanding or whether they have any, difficulty in learning at all, right? Okay. Okay. Thank you, Nani, for sharing your thoughts. Okay. And Xu 老师, so which one did you select, Xu 老师? Okay, Xu 老师, you raise your hand, right? Sorry, did you turn on your microphone? Okay.
Sorry, that was a mistake, but I'll be happy
no
to share some
problem.
thoughts.
Okay.
I selected E. Actually, I think B is a good option as well, but E looks to me, so this guy is a bit confused and not very patient, in my opinion. So yeah, that's sometimes it's not very common in my class. I was thinking about B and E, but seeing so many people selected B, so I was like, E might just add to the variety of our responses.
Okay,
That's
thank
my
you,
thought.
Xu. Yeah, thank you very much, Xu, for sharing your thought. Okay, and yeah, I think the man looks a bit confused and uncertain in picture E, right? Okay, and maybe you will see such facial expression among your students in your classes too, right? Okay, and anybody selected C? I'm actually curious about C. Like when I was choosing picture for this page, I was not very sure about what messages the man tried to show us. I mean, with this facial expression. So anybody selected C? Anybody? Maybe like Ye Lao Shi or Sharon Chen Lao Shi. Could you share your thoughts with us? Or why did you select C? Okay, no problem. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so I think students will have different kind of reactions, okay, in EMI classes. Sometimes they feel confused because they don't understand. Okay, maybe it's not because of the content, it's because of their language proficiency. They have issues with English, okay? And sometimes students may enjoy EMI classes very much. And sometimes students they as Nayu 老师 mentioned earlier, they just there is a like blank, okay, on their face. So we are not really sure if they are following us well, or we are not sure if everything is going well, or if they have any questions. Okay, so I think it's very important to understand the student population in our classes. Okay, so our local students, even when they are studying at universities, they still have very little EMI experience. Even if they have such experience, I think they learn, they obtain or they learn through EMI mostly in their English classes, either in university classes or secondary or elementary schools, right? And there may be different types of student populations in your class. You may have all of your students are local Taiwanese students, or maybe you may have some international students sitting in your class. And even when you have international students, some international student may speak English as their first language, or some student they speak English as also as a foreign language or second language, okay? But what about our local students? Our local students, they receive many years of English education, and they are actually at different levels of English proficiency. So their English proficiency is diverse, okay? And their academic achievements, for example, their like how much they know about the subject content or their background knowledge will influence how well they can learn in an EMI class, okay? And some effective factors such as their motivation, their willingness to communicate in English will also influence their participation in classes as well, okay? But I think our local students or our students in general also have some strengths, okay? For example, they receive several years of intensive training in English language education, and also we went through the same journey as they did, right? So I think we have some common experience or common knowledge so that we can better understand our students' prior learning experiences, okay, before they attend or join our classes, okay? And also our students, they know several thousand of words in English, maybe like 5,000 or 6,000 words. And those words, their vocabulary size may include general vocabulary and academic vocabulary, okay? And, you know, kids in this generation are very adept at using digital learning tools and technological devices, okay? And they speak L1, maybe they speak Mandarin as their L1 or other languages as their first language, and they may be able to speak other languages as well. And of course, they have other characteristics, okay? So even though that there may be some challenges or difficulties in terms of how to implement EMI classes, I think what's actually more important is how we can help our students learn based on the strengths they have, okay? And how we can facilitate our teaching and make sure that our students are making good progress. So that would be the focus for today, okay? So what about EMI instructors' main concerns? I'll be talking about two studies conducted in Taiwan, okay? So Fenton Smith, Stilwell, and Dupree in 2017 published a study on Taiwanese university lecturers' needs for EMI. Okay, and they surveyed 20 university lecturers in Taiwan about their attitude or their needs for EMI. Okay, one of the questions asked them what are their biggest concerns about using EMI. Okay, so these are the options they provided, okay, in the survey. So to question 21, they had students have low English proficiency, students have mixed English language ability, insufficient support for students to develop their English language ability at my institution, my own limited English language ability, and EMI may diminish the quality of the content I try to teach. Okay, I will show you the results later, but before I show you the result, I'd like to hear from you first. Okay, so could you please go back to slido.com? This question is already ready. Okay, so let me show you the question. So I'd like to know what you think about the concerns. Okay, university lecturers' concerns about EMI. So let's take a look at this. Okay. So could you please go back to slido.com, and I think you can select multiple options to this question. So like which one are your biggest concern about using EMI? Okay. Okay, I'm gonna stop here for maybe like 1 minute or 2 minutes. Okay, so we'll be waiting for everybody's responses. Okay. Oh, I see 13 responses, slido.com now. Okay. Maybe many people are still working on this question. Okay, maybe like 1 more minute. Okay, 1 more minute, and then I will compare our results with the research results. Okay. I see 28, 31 responses. So 31 participants already completed this question. Okay, I think we're ready to move on, right? Anybody still working on the question? Yeah, okay. Some people are still working on this question. Okay, I think we can move on. Okay, so let's take a look at the results. Okay, so 77% of you selected students have mixed English language ability. Like students have different levels of English ability. Some may have adequate skill while others do not. Students have 37% of you selected. Students have low level English language ability, and only 31% selected EMI may diminish the quality of the content I try to teach. And 24% selected insufficient support for students to develop their English language abilities at my institution. Only 8% are concerned about their own English language ability. Okay, and actually our results are very, very similar to the results of Fenton, Smith, Stilwell, and Dupuy study. Okay, let me show you the results. Okay. Okay, so these are the results of their study. Okay, so just like our results, 65%, around 60% or 65% of the teachers selected students have mixed English language ability. So they're actually more concerned about students' proficiency level. Okay, or students have low level English language ability. And 50%, like Kim, teacher, are concerned about their own limited English language ability. 40% of them are worried that EMI may diminish the quality of the content they try to teach, and only 30% are worried about the support their university can provide to their students. Okay. Next one. So we just talked about teachers' concerns, right? But what about students' main difficulties? I'll be showing you another study conducted by Professor Ye, okay? And the study was also conducted here in Taiwan, okay? So we can hear students' thoughts, students' attitude, voices towards EMI, okay? So in Professor Ye's study, and she asked students about their attitude toward EMI. Okay, she surveyed 476 students from 25 EMI courses offered at 6 different universities in Taiwan. Okay, and one of the questions asked the student about their concern in EMI classes. Okay, so the options include: number one, the content of the course material is too difficult. There are too many specialist terms. The learning load is too heavy. I cannot comprehend or get used to the instructor's accent. The instructor's speaking rate is too fast. My English ability is not good enough. Could you please also go back to Slido again, okay, and select one option or multiple options that you think are students' main concern about learning in EMI classes, okay? So once again, I'm gonna give you 1 to 2 minutes to make your decisions, okay? So let me go back to Slido. So what do you think are the biggest concerns of Taiwanese students, okay, in EMI classes? Okay, so I'll stop here for a few minutes, okay? Okay, the study was conducted in, I think, 2014, right? That was almost 10 years ago. Okay, so maybe students today would be very much different from those students you taught 10 years back then. Okay. Okay, I see 33 responses on slido.com now. Okay, let's wait for like maybe 20 more seconds and then we'll move on. We'll check the results together. Okay. Okay, so let's check the results together. Okay, so 63% of you are worried about the content of the course material. You are worried that the content may be too difficult for your students. Maybe you are using like English textbooks, okay, or Nanyu, please.
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt. On my screen, it shows the previous question, but I was just wondering. I wonder if it's just my problem or.
Okay, can everybody see this page? The question is, what are students' biggest concern about learning EMI? Are you?
Professor Wang, I can see it actually. I have the right slide.
Oh,
okay,
sorry.
yeah.
So that's my problem. Sorry about that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, Professor Lin here, and thank you, Nanyu. Okay. Okay, so let's take a look at the results together. Okay, so 63% of you selected the content of the course materials too difficult for your students, and maybe you are using English textbooks, right? So you're worried about your students' proficiency, whether they can understand the textbook content or not. And 60% selected students are worried about their English proficiency. 43% selected specialist terms, right? So there may be technical terms in English that students have to learn, but they may be difficult if they are presented or explained in English. Okay, and 37% selected learning load is too heavy. The instructor speaking rate is too fast. Okay, and I think very few of you selected I cannot comprehend and get used to the instructor's accent. Okay, very good. Okay, so let me show you the results of Professor Ye's study. Okay, let me show you the results. Okay, so this table is adapted from Professor Ye's article. Okay, so as you can see here, I highlighted a few percentages, right? 22% of the students selected there are too many specialist terms. Okay, maybe let's talk about those. Let's talk about those statements that show the highest disagreement rates. Okay, so students are less concerned about learning load. Students are not very concerned about whether they can concentrate or not concentrate in EMI classes. They are not worried about accent at all. Okay, speaking rate is too fast. It's not an issue at all. Okay, what they worried about most maybe is about their own English proficiency. Okay, and also the specialist terms. If we compare all the statements in the table, okay, so it seems that students worried about their own English proficiency and then all the technical terms in the textbooks or a teacher explain in classes. Okay, so there are like, I think you can see that there are EMI instructors in Taiwan and also EMI students. They share some ideas about what kind of difficulties may challenge their teaching or will challenge their learning EMI classes. Okay, so later on, I'll be talking about some teaching techniques that may be helpful to your EMI classes. Okay. Okay, so that is the next topic for today. Some EMI teaching strategies. Okay, so before we talk about the strategies, I'd like to invite you to think about this question, okay? So maybe you have been teaching your classes in CMI, Chinese as the medium of instruction, for years, for many years, okay? So you are already very familiar with the textbook content, with the course content. You know what you need to teach to the students. You are also very familiar with what kind of activity you will implement in your classes, right? Okay. But one day, if you need to switch to English and use English as the instructional language, would you do something differently when you teach in English? Okay. So this is not a survey for today, but I do want to invite everybody to think about this question. So for example, in CMI or EMI classes, would you address students' proficiency in English? Do you care about students' proficiency in CMI classes, or do you care about their proficiency more in EMI classes? Would you simplify language when you teach in English? Will you reduce the course content in English when you teach in English? Will you change your rate of speech, your speech rate, where you are explaining or maybe a particular concept when you are teaching EMI classes? Would you check your students' comprehension? I think teachers check students' comprehension all the time, right? Even when we are teaching in Chinese, we check students' comprehension. Okay, so language is not a barrier, but in EMI classes, maybe you will check students' comprehension even more often. Okay. Do you elicit questions from your students? I think, once again, I think teachers do this all the time, right? We raise questions. We also invite questions from our students, no matter whether we are teaching in English or in Chinese. Do you encourage students' critical thinking differently when you are teaching in English? Do you illustrate abstract concept with examples, or maybe more examples, okay, when you are teaching in English? How do you use collaborative learning like pair work or group work? Do you use such activities differently, okay, when you're teaching in English? How do you give feedback to your students? Do you provide vocabulary even when you are teaching CMI, okay? And how do you make course requirements explicit? How do you provide clear instructions and make sure that your instructions are clear enough to your students? Do you design and provide handout to your students in CMI and also EMI classes? And how do you relate new concept to students' experience? Do you do that in your CMI classes? I think teachers do this all the time, right? And in EMI classes, maybe you would do this differently. The last one is, how do you explain key concepts in either CMI or EMI classes? Okay, so this is the question that I want everybody to think about before we move on to the next page. Okay. Okay, and Jennifer Gonzalez, she published an article on 10 ways to give a better lecture. I think it was last week, right? She published the article last week, okay? And she provides 10 suggestions about how we can make our lecture effective, okay? And I think the 10 suggestions can be a very good foundation for today's discussion, okay? First of all is we need to give it structure. It here means our lesson, just like a text, a passage, or an article. Article needs a structure, right? A clear structure. A lesson also needs a clear structure. Okay, so we need to make sure that whether our lesson is organized properly, like we have warm up, we have a hook at the very beginning, we have all the activities have proper transition in between. Also, do we have a proper wrap up at the end of a class? Okay, and the second suggestion Jennifer Gonzalez provides is keep it brief. I mean, it here is our lecture, okay? You know, students have very short attention spans, okay? So if we keep talking and talking all the time nonstop, like 20 or 30 minutes, their mind will wander around, in the class time, right? So Jennifer Gonzalez's suggestion is that we can actually divide our class time into smaller chunks. Okay, so like maybe 15 minutes for one chunk. So every 15 minutes, we can have some discussions or some activity, so we can have some interaction with our students and make sure that they are making good progress in our class. Okay. And number 3 is we need to engage our audience properly to have an effective lecture. Okay, so to engage our students, I think teachers try different strategies and adapt different teaching methods all the time. For example, we may use visual aids. We may have pair work or group activity and etc. to make sure that the class is interactive. The students are listening to us. So we try very hard to engage our audience. So an effective lecture also engage students' attention, okay, and make sure that they participate in the class as well, okay? And number 4 is using visuals, and teachers use visuals all the time, right? Like English teacher, we play videos, we show pictures or images. Science teacher may use different kind of interactive simulations as well, right? So visuals like graphs, diagrams, simulations, they're attractive to students. They can also help students better understand the content as well, okay? And number 5 is using examples, right? Examples are particularly important when teachers are explaining abstract concept, right? So if we can provide example, especially those examples that are relatable to our students, maybe local examples, Taiwanese examples, to help students better understand the concept, that would be very, very, they can help students stay on the right track in our class and make good progress as well, okay? The next 6 suggestion provided by Jennifer Gonzalez is using analogies. Students love stories, right? Analogies is one way to compare one thing to another thing. So especially when we are explaining an abstract concept, if we can compare the concept to another thing that is actually more concrete to students, that can also help them better understand the course content, okay? And number 7, I'm not really sure what you think about this, but personally, I think students love stories, okay? They love teacher stories a lot, okay? So sometimes we can share our stories in our class, okay? Especially when those stories or those personal experiences can be helpful to students, can help them understand the course content we are teaching in the class, okay? And number 8 is think out loud. Okay, think out loud, thinking out loud. Thinking out loud is like a teacher demonstrate their thinking process in class. For example, when I'm looking at the diagram or when I'm looking at a flow chart, I tell my student what is going on in my mind. For example, when I look at this chart, I feel confused. I don't know why the author raised this question, or why, I don't know how come the author conclude the result this way, okay? So you can tell, you can actually think out loud as a way to show your student how a professional think about the issue, how a professional think about a topic that you are discussing in class. I think this is a very good way for your student to learn from you as well, okay? And number 9 is make it dynamic, so you can have different kind of interactive activities, okay, and make sure that there is very good atmosphere and rapport in your class as well, okay? The last one is move it to the end, okay? You may be curious about what it means here. It here means direct instructions. University professors, we give lectures very often. We explain difficult concepts. We explain abstract knowledge points to our students. And many teachers will start their lesson by explaining all the difficult concepts, their terminology or theories at the very beginning directly, okay? So, but the suggestion provided by Jennifer Gonzalez is that actually we can save the direct instruction to the end of the class. Okay, so we can invite students to think about a question we raise at the very beginning of the class. Okay, so students, they need to work out solution to the question together. Okay, they may feel confused, they may feel uncertain about how to deal with it, but raising the question at the very beginning, or giving students a question to think about at the very beginning, is one way to arouse their curiosity, and also to make sure that they can stay on the track, okay, in the class. Okay, so if we analyze all the 10 suggestions and all the important tips about how to teach a lecture, how to give a lecture effectively, I think there are 4 very important dimensions that support an effective lecture. That is, the first of all is about curricular design or lesson design. I think this is fundamental to every effective lecture. Okay, if you choose to teach in EMI, this is not just about changing the instructional language to English. It actually gives you a chance to reconsider how you design your class, and to reconsider whether you provide enough support, enough scaffolding to your students. Okay, so I think curriculum and lesson design is the most important thing to a successful EMI class. It's fundamental to every successful lecture. Okay, and the second thing is about lecturing style, like how we deliver a class. Okay, the third one is how we deliver the content. How we explain the maybe like textbook concepts to our students, and how we use our instructional language in EMI classes. The last one is whether we make good use of multimodal resources like multimedia, diagrams, simulations, simulators, and etc. Okay, so I'll be talking about them one by one. Okay, I'll be talking about them one by one. So as I mentioned earlier, if a university professor choose to switch to EMI, okay, in their class, this does not mean that they change their instructional language only. Sometimes they need to think about whether their teaching style in CMI classes would be appropriate when they teach in English. Okay, so we may need to when you're teaching EMI classes, maybe you will have more pair work or group discussion because you are not sure whether students are following you well. Okay, so teacher may need to reconsider the way you design your class, or the way you design an activity in your class. Okay, to make sure that students have enough support. Okay, and earlier, even though I mentioned that EMI instructors are not language instructors, EMI teachers are not English teachers, but I think it would be very, very helpful if EMI teachers are aware of their own instructional language and also students' language proficiency as well. They can provide students with some kind of language support along the way. Okay, maybe when students do not know how to explain an idea or how to express their thoughts properly, teachers may give them some hints or some sentence starter, or give some suggestions about how to formulate their ideas in English. Okay. The second one about curriculum and lesson design is, every successful lecture has a clear structure. Okay, it has a clear frame. Okay, having a clear frame for our lecture can make sure that our objectives are clear to our students. It can also make sure that our students can follow our lesson, our teaching well. Okay, I'm gonna show you a video clip. Okay, selected from MIT OpenCourseWare. Okay, the video is on. The video is a lesson on enzymes and catalysis. Okay, the teacher will be teaching using blackboards and chalk only, no PowerPoint. I know that today, but the video was actually filmed a couple of years ago. Okay, I know that teachers today use PowerPoints more often. Okay, so even that the teaching style and teaching method may be very different from your own teaching method, but I think we can still discuss and learn from the way the teacher framed her lesson. Okay, so let me show you the video for a few minutes, and then we'll talk about how the teacher introduced or start her lesson. Okay, so I'm gonna stop here for a while. Please give me a second. Okay, we'll be watching this video for only a few minutes, okay? So I will only show you the beginning part of this lesson, okay? So please let me know if you can hear everything clearly or not, okay?
Provided under a Creative Commons license. Your support will help MIT OpenCourseware continue to offer high-quality educational resources for free. To make a donation or view additional materials from hundreds of MIT courses, visit MIT OpenCourseware at ocw.mit.edu.
Okay, so
Is everything clear so far? Yes? Is everything clear?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll continue the video, okay.
welcome to class today. Today I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, enzymes and catalysis. And what I would like to do is give you an outline of where we're going today. First, we're going to define what a catalyst is. And we're going to focus on enzymes as catalysts. Then what we're going to do is describe the theory of catalysis. And we'll show how the theory can account for all experimental observations, or most experimental observations. We'll then talk about the mechanisms of catalysis. And we'll see that there are 3 basic mechanisms. I won't write them out now, but we'll come to them. And then, if time allows, we'll talk about another property of enzymes. These are all focused with amazing rates of reaction. And the second property of enzymes, besides the fact that they can accelerate reactions by 1 million to 1 billion fold, is their specificity. Okay, so that's where we're going. And what I'd like to do in the very beginning is show you why, spend a little time to show you why enzymes are important, okay? Why do you care about enzymes? That's why you care about enzymes. Look at this mess. That's what's going on inside your body. There are thousands of reactions going on inside your body. Without enzymes, no reaction. Okay, so you must care about enzymes. Okay, so, and what we're going to see over the course of the semester is that we can break down this mess into a few basic reactions.
Okay, so let's stop here. Okay, I'll stop here. Okay, so what did you observe in this video? Anybody want to share? What did you observe in this video? Anyone? Yeah, Nani, please. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, I'm the first again. So I noticed that she wasn't just standing in the one spot. So she was like moving, using the space effectively. And she was very familiar with using the blackboards. Like, yeah, so she obviously had planned this out before the class started.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nani. Thank you. Okay, and also Sheila, I see you raise your hand, right? Would you like to share your thoughts?
Yeah, so I noticed two things in the video. The first thing is that she is very confident, and she moves around in the classroom, and she lays out the course plan, like what we're gonna do in today's lecture. The plan, the structure of the lecture very clearly at the very beginning of this class. And the second thing is that I really like her, the big figure. It's like, this is what's going on in your body, and it's very messy. So you definitely want to know what's going on in your body, right? So this is what we're gonna do. And so I like this visualization. Basically, I think that the figure itself doesn't actually says much. It's just a mess, but the messiness is exactly her point. So I like that part. I mean, if I were in her classroom, I'd be like, okay, that is really messy, and sure, why don't I learn about this? If you could break this down into maybe 3 mechanisms, 4 mechanisms, like you said, it's a good thing. So that's the 2 things I noticed in the video I just saw.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much, Senai. Okay. Yeah, you raised a very good point. When I was watching this video, that really reminds me of a professor. When I was when I was a student at Donghai, one of the general education courses I was taking, maybe in sophomore and junior years, the professor always began her lesson by writing down the agenda, the blueprint of the lesson on the blackboard. Okay, so she will explain everything very clearly. She will tell us that today, first of all, we'll talk about this and that, and then we'll talk about that and that. Okay, so at the very beginning of the class, or of every class or each class, student can understand what they will be learning in the lesson very clearly. Okay, so I like the way the student shows the agenda to the students at the very beginning. I also like the charisma the student, the teacher, shows to her student, right? And also I like the question. Did you notice that she raised the question? Why should we care about enzyme? Okay, and she showed the illustration to her students right away, right? She raised a question, she gave students a hook at the very beginning to arouse their curiosity, to make them interested in today's topic. I think it's a very good way to start a lesson, to show students something they need to care about, to engage them into thinking about the discussion topic. Okay, so this is what I want to show you. Let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so I think another very important, a very important way to make sure that our lecture is effective is our lesson needs a clear structure, and we cannot keep talking for like 20 to 30 minutes all the time. Sometimes it will be necessary to break up our lesson into smaller chunks or smaller parts. Okay, so every chunk or every part, we can have some interaction with the students. We can have some pair work or group activities so that student can practice what they have learned in the last chunk. Okay. And this is also, I think, is a very good way to make sure that your lecture goes well. It's also engaging to your student. And as the video we just watched, the professor raised the question after she introduced the agenda, right? She asked the question, why should we care about enzyme? And then she showed the picture. I think this is a very good way to engage and interest your students. Okay, so I think it's very good way to include a hook in the lead-in or warm-up at the very beginning of the lesson as well. Okay, so besides those about curriculum and lesson design, I think we also need to consider how we deliver content to our students. Okay, and I think, let me check the time. I think I have a video to show you, but I think because we are running out of time, I may not show you the video for today. Okay, but I think we can just move on to the to this one. Okay, so I think, even though earlier I mentioned that I keep mentioning that EMI instructors are not English teachers, but I also mentioned that EMI teacher, if they need to be aware of language, like we need to be aware of language. We need to be aware of our own instructional language. We also need to be aware of students' English abilities as well. So language awareness of EMI instructors is important, okay, even though that we are not teaching English in our EMI classes, okay? So what are some features of effective instructional language, okay? And first of all, pronunciation needs to be clear and accurate, okay? And speech rate is appropriate. Stress is also appropriate. Intonation is appropriate. Proper use of pausing is also important. You know, sometimes when a teacher is teaching, is speaking, and then he or she suddenly pauses, and she says something else, that can draw students' attention to what the teacher is going to say next. Okay, so proper use of pausing is important, but if we pause for too long, that will influence the fluency of our instructional language. Okay, so that's why I put proper use of pausing. Okay, so pausing needs to be appropriate. Okay. And point 4 is also very important. We use conversational or spoken English rather than written English. So when we are teaching, we should not use like textbook language. Okay, we just read like definitions from textbooks or definition from the internet. Instead, we should present the content in a more conversational style. Okay. And next one is proper word choice. Make sure that our word choices are not too difficult for them. Even though I know that sometimes it's necessary to use difficult vocabulary because it's specific to the topic you are teaching or specific to your discipline, I think it's definitely okay. But if you use difficult vocabulary, I think it's okay to provide Chinese translation or as well. You may also consider explaining or give students more explanation about the maybe the theory or the vocabulary you just mentioned. Okay. Okay. I think another very effective strategy to make sure that our lecture can go well, okay, can go smoothly, and can also make our students stay on the right track is using signpost or organizational signals. Okay, I don't know. I'm not sure if you have ever thought about your own instructional language, whether you are teaching in CMI classes or EMI classes. You know, maybe you have been teaching for many, many years. Okay, I think you will gradually realize that there are some patterns in your instructional language. For example, how you start a lesson, how you greet your students, how you wrap up your lesson, or how you draw your students' attention to maybe your PowerPoints, or how you present your own research results or other research articles. Okay, so if you analyze our own instructional language, you will find out that there are some phrases or expressions or words that we keep using over and over again, okay? And those expressions are very useful organizational signals that can help our students understand our lesson, okay? I'm gonna show you a very interesting video, okay? It's on YouTube, okay? The title is Good Presentation versus Bad Presentation. So even though that the video shows students' presentations only, it's not lectures presentation, but I think that there are things we can learn, okay? We can take away from this video, okay? So let me show you this video first, and then we'll discuss it later, okay? Okay, please let me know if everything is okay, okay? Let me show you the video now, okay?
My name is Matt. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Public Speaking. Today's first presenter is Ranjit. I would ask everyone to give him their full attention. Chantal, could you dim the lights, please?
The British imposed a lot of unpopular taxes on the American colonists, and didn't let them elect representatives to the British government. In retaliation, the Americans started to boycott British goods. In 1773, Americans in Massachusetts dumped a shipload of British tea into Boston Harbor. This became known as the Boston Tea Party. As punishment, the British imposed laws known as the Intolerable Acts, including the Quartering Act, which made Americans let British soldiers live in their homes. Some of the American colonies created a Declaration of Rights and Grievances, which they sent to Britain, but the British just sent soldiers to the colonies to put down any rebellion. This led to the first battles of the Revolution at Lexington and Concord.
Thank you, Ranjit. I know it's very hard to give a presentation in front of the entire class. Now, would anyone like to offer Ranjit constructive feedback about his presentation? Any tips for what he might do differently next time? For example, were you all able to hear what Ranjit was saying?
Not really. He needs to speak louder and face the audience.
Yes. Great suggestion. Anyone else?
He was reading from his paper, so it didn't feel like he was really talking to us, you know?
Exactly. It's important when you're speaking to look up every sentence or two and make eye contact with someone in the audience. Anything else that Ranjit could do to appear more relaxed and feel more confident?
He could smile more.
Yes, smiling makes us feel relaxed. Oh, and make sure your phone is off before you speak next time. I do have one more suggestion. To connect with listeners, it's a great idea to use a personal story or experience as an example. Can you try that next time?
I think so, yes. Next week, my presentation will be about the causes and effects of stress.
We look forward to hearing it. Ranjit is first up again today, and I look forward to his new presentation. Jorge, could you dim the lights, please?
Good morning. Today I'd like to talk about the causes and effects of stress and how to cope with stress. Stress has many causes, including work or school, life events, changes, or unrealistic expectations of yourself. Some effects of stress include headaches, trouble sleeping, depression, or lack of concentration. I know how hard it can be to deal with stress. Last year, I started working after school to save for college, but I didn't have time to do homework and my grades went down. I had trouble sleeping, I only ate junk food, and I stopped hanging out with my friends. Fortunately, I was able to talk with a school counselor to manage my stress. She suggested that I reduce my hours at my job, eat healthy foods, and get some exercise. So I literally started walking home from school and bringing my lunch. I also asked my teachers for extra help. Now, I feel better. It's important to recognize when you're stressed and to ask for help. Thank you.
Okay, so let's stop here for a while. So what did you observe from this video? Any thoughts? I think the second presentation, in the second presentation, the speaker looks more confident, right? And also the second presentation is actually easier to follow. Okay, Professor Vink here. Professor Vink here, your microphone is not on.
Yes,
thank you.
I hope you can hear me now. I was just going to say that, the contrast is very obvious, but I think the video is also a little bit manipulated because he's supposed to fail the first time. He's supposed to do a good job the second time. The first time he speaks about an academic subject, which comes from the history book, right? So it's a history course. He's lecturing about a subject which he did not experience himself. The second time, he speaks about his own life experience. And so it becomes a story. It becomes very honest and very genuine. It comes from deep within himself. Whereas the first presentation comes from a book or an article or a textbook which he had to study, right? So I think in that sense, I think the video is sort of a little bit to me it seems just a little bit artificial. This is not how my students act in class. That's what I mean. All right. I'm sorry. That's just my own sort of reaction.
Okay, thank you for saying here. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, because I think it's kind of artificial, it's manipulated because it's like a drama show. Okay, but I think what's actually interesting is like in a second presentation, we can understand that if we compare the first presentation and the second presentation, we can find out that there are differences in the way the speaker present or deliver the content to the audience. Okay, I'm not sure if you notice some words or some words that he used in the second presentation. For example, now I feel da 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 da, or today I'm going to da 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 da, or fortunately da 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 da. Okay, and I think the speaker uses even that this is kind of like manipulated show or video, okay, but I think what we can take away from this video is that when we are giving a lecture or when students are giving their presentation, they can actually use different kind of organizational signals, and those organizational signals, they carry different functions in discourse. Okay, let me show you some of the organizational signals that we can use in our lesson. Okay, for example, earlier the man used the word now. I think now is a very good way to draw students' attention, right? So we can use different kind of organizational signals to for different purposes. For example, when we are presenting a agenda or blueprint of a lesson, when we are reviewing a lesson, start a new lesson or organize a lesson, present an idea or a topic, or present a study or results, connect ideas or topics, or draw students' attention or conclude a lesson. So these kind of expressions or phrases that can help us make sure that can help us structure our lecture, our classroom activities. It can also help students understand where they are, okay, which part of the lesson they are in at that time. Okay, let me give you some example. For example, when we are presenting an agenda, we may say something like, today we are going to talk about, today we will cover the main objective of this class is, I'll give you a brief introduction to. When we are reviewing a lesson, last week we talked about, in the last class we discussed. Let's review. Before we move on to discuss this and that, let's review okay? So we use these kind of expressions, all the time when we are reviewing a lesson. You may have other choices, definitely, okay? And when we are organizing a lesson, for example, the blueprint for today's project presentation is as follows. First of all, group one will share their work, and then okay? So these are kind of organizational signals that can help students organize a lesson, okay? Let me ask you a question, like, it's just a very quick question for everybody, like, how do you often present a study or result to your students? What do you often say? Could you just like share one sentence in the chat box? Okay, so we can collect different utterance, different expressions today. Like, how do you present a study or results or finding, or when you are introducing maybe your researchers' projects or their output, research outputs, what do you often say? Any ideas? You can type your responses, your ideas in the chat box. Maybe we can wait, maybe like one. Any idea? What do you often say when you are presenting a study or research results? Any ideas? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I forgot to scroll down the dialogue, so I didn't see your your responses. I'm sorry about that. Okay. Yeah, according to the latest survey, according to the study, let me share with you a very interesting study. Today we are going to here are the results of the study. Let's take a look at the results and etc. Right? As you can see, the findings suggest very good. Okay. Next question. How do you often draw your students' attention? Maybe like to their attention to a chart or maybe a picture or something like, or draw their attention if their minds are already wandering in class. So how do you draw their attention? What do you often say? Any thoughts? Stop talking. Stop talking. That's a very good strategy, right? It's also very straightforward. Okay, stop talking, and it works out every time. It works every time. Okay, and let's take a look at this. Then we will have a break after. Okay, let me show you something interesting here. Maybe joke or change the subject or share a story. That's very good. Okay. Xu Laoshi said, I simply say, may I have your attention, please? I think that's also very straightforward. That's also very effective as well. Okay. Okay. So let's move on. Okay. Let's move on. Okay. Another very good resource that I want to share with you is this. Let me copy and paste the link. Okay. Let me copy and paste the link in the chat box. Okay. I think this table, sorry, this figure is very straightforward. It's very helpful. Okay. Okay, so you can click the link and you will see 2 pages about teachers' discourse moves and also students' discourse moves. Okay. Okay, so what are discourse moves? What we say in a class actually carries different discourse functions. So we draw students' attention. We want to encourage them to elaborate on their ideas and etc. Okay, so in this figure, you will see six different types of teacher discourse moves to encourage students to strengthen their reasoning. Okay, to strengthen students' reasoning. Okay, for example, what we can say to help a student clarify their ideas: make an idea public, emphasize an idea, help students listen carefully and react, help students deepen their reasoning, help students apply their thinking to other ideas. Okay, so if you take a look at everything closely, you will see some expressions that you may use. For example, when we are helping students listen carefully and think about other ideas, we can say, who can rephrase or repeat the idea for us? How is that idea different from what we had said earlier? We also encourage students to think critically. Okay, we raise questions to engage them. Okay, and also invite them to think about the question critically. Okay. There are also expressions about how to help students apply their thinking to others' idea or prompt peer-to-peer talk and etc. Okay, and how to mark and emphasize a particular idea. For example, that's interesting. Can you say that again for us? Will someone retell the idea for us? Okay, so a lot of different expressions can help us. Okay, to facilitate our teaching, to engage our students, okay, and also encourage them to think about the topics we are discussing in class, okay? So what if there is communication breakdown when students are presenting their idea, they are sharing their thoughts, okay? So teacher at that time need to negotiate meaning with the students, right? And we can use different kind of communication strategies when there is communication breakdown between you and your students. Okay, so the first communication strategy is comprehension check. Okay, we can say, do you understand? Are you following me? Is everything clear? And others, many different kind of examples. Okay, the second one is confirmation check. The first one is comprehension check. You want to make sure that students understand what you just mentioned, what you just talked about. Confirmation check is very similar, but when students say something which you are not very sure about, you may ask the student to repeat their ideas. Okay, so confirmation checks help you confirm students, I confirm with the students about what they have said. You can say, are you saying that? Is that what you mean? And etc. The final one is clarification requests. Please say it again. Okay. There are actually different kind of expressions we can use when there is communication breakdown in class, and we have to negotiate meaning with our students. Okay. And next topic I want to talk about is about scaffolding. When we are teaching in CMI classes, we use Chinese to teach a lesson, or we will design different kind of scaffolding activities. For example, we will have pair work, we will have group work, okay, and etc. We may use multimedia resources. We play a video, we show diagrams or illustrations or charts and etc. to use some kind of visual aids in our lesson, right? Okay. In EMI classes, students may need more scaffolding, okay, than when they are in CMI classes. Once again, in EMI classes, students are learning the content in the language they are still learning, okay? So if you want to make sure that they are following us well, we need to consider whether we provide enough scaffolding to our students, okay? There are actually 3 different kinds of scaffolding. Okay, let's take a look at them one by one, and you can also think about how you can make good use of such scaffolding to facilitate your teaching. For example, verbal scaffolding. So verbally, how you can scaffold your students by means of language. Okay, so you may recast students' ideas, think out loud, thinking aloud. You can give models or prompts to them, and even you can use the first language when it's necessary, okay? And procedural scaffolding is about how you design or how you plan a lesson. So you may provide a clear teaching framework or a teaching procedure, like what we discussed earlier, presenting the agenda at the very beginning of a lesson. Teacher can also models, right? Teacher models to show students some good samples. Okay, when teachers models, teacher also show their expectation to students as well. Using pair work and group work, especially, there are low achiever and high achievers in our class. So if you are not very sure about if everyone is following you well, you can actually have more pair work and more group discussions. So students, low achiever, they can learn from higher achiever. They can work out, they can deal with the challenges or difficulties they have through cooperation. Teacher-student conferencing, and the last one is instructional scaffolding. Okay, just like visual aids, we can use mind mapping, using graphic organizer, or providing sample for students, and etc. Okay. So this is I think this figure shows the way we can scaffold our students, okay, in a lesson, in an EMI lesson. For example, we can teach at the very beginning, then we model, we show good samples, we show our expectation to our students, and then students have an opportunity to practice and discuss in pair or in small groups, and they also have a chance to apply what they have learned. Okay, so the purpose of scaffolding students is to help them gradually get rid of the scaffolding we provide them. Okay, so we hope that with the scaffolding, students, they can understand the lesson, but gradually they do not need the scaffolding anymore. Okay, they can practice independently. They can apply what they have learned without the scaffolding provided by the teacher. Okay. Okay, another very important thing about EMI lecture is, as mentioned earlier, our students, they speak L1 and other languages. They enter our classes not as a blank page, no prior knowledge. No, that's not true, right? Every student has a lot of prior experiences and knowledge, right? So when we are explaining a concept, I think it's a very good idea to connect new content to what they already know. We can use local examples. We can use something students are already familiar with. Try to build a good connection between the new content and also students' prior knowledge as well. Okay. Okay, next one. I have about like 15 minutes left. Okay, I'll be speaking for maybe like 10 more minutes. Okay, and I'll spare some time for questions. Okay, so next I want to talk about vocabulary. Okay, so as the study we discussed earlier, students had a lot of concerns and difficulties in specialist terms. Okay, so specialist terms, technical terms are challenging to some students. So how can we help students deal with those specialist terms? Okay, so first of all, I'd like to talk about two different concepts. They're actually related. The first one is called BICS. BICS is short for Basic Interpersonal Communication Skills. CALP means Cognitive Academic Language Proficiency. Okay, so when we are learning English, we learn both BICS and CALP, right? So we learn how to interact with people outside the classroom. We learn how to do shopping in English. We learn how to congratulate other people, okay, and etc. in English as well, right? Okay, so this is about everyday language, everyday English. Okay, and what about the English we learn at school? It's called Cognitive Academic English Proficiency. Okay, for example, in your lessons, you're explaining maybe a concept in English, maybe a term or a technical term that belongs to the category of CALP. Okay, BICS usually takes around 1 to 3 years to develop fluency, but CALP takes around like 5 to 7 years to develop its fluency. Okay, so how do we deal with CALP? Okay, how do we deal with technical terms that may be difficult and challenging to our students? Okay, definitely we can pre-teach specialties or technical terms. Okay, at the very beginning of the lesson, you can write down the terms on the blackboard or on your PowerPoint slide. Okay, and you can show them that these are what we will be discussing today. We're going to talk about each one of them. Maybe it's about a theory, about a concept, maybe it's about a phenomena, or and etc. Okay, you can pre-teach specialist or technical term, or show them, bring this term to your students' attention at the very beginning of the lesson. Okay, and I think it's definitely fine to provide Chinese translation when necessary. You know, I think even when we are teaching English, we want our student, you know, when it comes to understanding a specialist term, I think definitely we want our student to know the Chinese translation and also the English translation as well. Okay, so I think sometimes when you are teaching, when you are talking about a term in English, you can also provide Chinese translation. You don't need to say it orally. You can have Chinese translation on your PowerPoint slides. So you can, you know, continue speaking English, but students can read the translation on the PowerPoint slide by themselves. Okay. I do have a video that I want to show you, but I'm sorry, we don't have enough time for this. Let me give you the link so you can watch the video when you have time. Okay, let me give you the link. You know, Ohio University, Ohio University, they have YouTube channel. On their YouTube channel, they have a lot of EMI videos for teachers. Okay, so let me give you the link. So if you want to know how to teach specialist terms, how to explain terms in EMI classes, you may watch the video when you have time. Okay. Oh, sorry, this is not the one. The second one, the one I just left is the video, the link to the video. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna move on. Okay, I think the video is very informative, so you can watch it when you have time. Okay. Okay, yeah, in the video, there is a Korean professor who explains the concept of congruent in statistics class. Okay, so she actually use different strategies when she explaining congruent. For example, as you can see here, what does the word congruent mean? That's really a good question. Congruent is spelled this way. So she point at the word on the blackboard. The word congruent means if two objects have the same dimension and shape, it basically means the same thing as equal. It does have specific meanings and situation, but equal is basically what it means. Two angles are congruent if they have the same measure, even if they are pointing in different directions. Let me give you let me draw an example. So she then draws two angles on the blackboard to illustrate the meaning of congruent. Let me draw another example. There are two angles again. One is bigger than the other, but they have the same measure. What about these two angles? Do you think they are congruent? So she invites her student to think about the question, do you think they are congruent? This way, she can also make sure that her student can understand the meaning of congruent, okay? So the link is already in the chat box, so you can watch the video when you have time, okay? So let's move on then. So, when we are explaining or defining the term in EMI classes, we can actually try different strategies. We can tell stories. We can present examples. We can talk about the causal relationships, or we can compare the concept with another concept that students already know, right? So there are different defining strategies for EMI classes. Okay, next, I think I'll just talk for 4 more minutes, okay? And I do want to share with you a very important resource, okay? How can we prepare students for EMI, okay? As mentioned earlier, our students are at different levels of proficiency, right? We have high achievers, we also have low achiever who may be struggling in learning English, okay? So when they're when they are in your classes or before they start any EMI class, how can we help them or scaffold them, or how can we prepare them for EMI classes? Okay, just like what I mentioned earlier, vocabulary can be divided into BICS and KELP, right? Language knowledge can be divided into BICS and KELP. And I do suggest the academic word list, okay, by Professor Averio Coxhead at Victoria University of Wellington, okay, I think in New Zealand, right? Professor Coxhead developed the academic word list. There are a total of 570 word families, and those words are commonly used in academic texts. Let me show you, let me give you the link. Okay, let me give you the link as well. Okay, so let me give you the link. Okay, you can go to the link and you can go to the website and you will see something like you see like I think 9 different sublists or 10 different sublists. Okay, on each sublist there are around 60 word families, and those are academic vocabulary that are commonly used in academic texts. Okay, for example, on sublist 1 you see analysis, right? Approach, area, assessment, assume, authority, and etc. So there are a total of 570 words. Okay, and so I do suggest that if before your student begin an EMI class or begin an EMI program, you may suggest them, this academic word list to them. Okay, I think it will not take much time for a student to learn the vocabulary, because these words are not totally new words. They learned those words back in high schools. Okay, so for example, approach, analysis, available. These are all not new words, they are all vocabulary words. Okay, so I think it's a very good foundation. If they can master the academic vocabulary list, this list is going to be a very good foundation for their EMI learning experiences or EMI learning. Okay, and what's also very important is there are a lot of different websites on which students can practice academic word lists. Okay, so there are, for example, Quizlets, okay, and Hong Kong, one university in Hong Kong also have a web page that contains different kind of vocabulary exercises. Okay, so I think students, they can learn the vocabulary. They can also find resources with which they can practice the vocabulary before they start an EMI class. Okay, so let me also copy and paste the links. Let me share them with you in the chat box as well. Okay. Okay, in one more minute. Okay, and I'm gonna skip this part. This is also on the same document I shared with you earlier. Okay, it's about students. How can we scaffold students and prepare them? I mean, give them language support in class. Okay, and I'm gonna skip this part. The last part I want to share with you is basically about how to encourage students to use more English. Definitely, student can we hope students can use more English, but I think students, they need confidence as much as we do, right? Even I now need confidence when I teach in English. Okay, so I think students, they need a lot of encouragement and also compliment from teachers, and also positive feedback from teacher. So I think these three are what we can do in terms of encouraging students. For example, we encourage them to use more English. We appreciate their ideas, and also we can give positive comments on students' deska. Deska means what? It's about their dignity, their energy, their self-management, their community and awareness. Okay. For example, if the student's output is not satisfactory, but you can still give them positive comments on their time management. Maybe they hand in their project in time, okay? And even though the product is not satisfactory, but I think before you give corrective feedback, you can still give them some positive comments, okay? Okay, more to explore. A few websites, as I mentioned earlier, Ohio University has an EMI channel on YouTube, so you can you can find some resources on EMI program. The video produced by Ohio University, and MIT has open courseware channel, and 国立台湾双语教育大学, they also have a few videos available on their YouTube channel as well. Okay, so you can also find some resources, some lecture video for your own reference. Okay. So these are the books and articles I consulted when I was, preparing the PowerPoint. Okay, so I think that's all for my sharing today. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Wang. Unfortunately, it is almost 11 o'clock, so maybe we have time for 3 to 5 minutes of questions. If we have 1 or 2 questions, perhaps very quickly, anybody, feel free to raise your hand. We will give you the floor, and you will have an opportunity to share a comment or perhaps a question with Professor Wang. Do we have anybody? Welcome. Please go ahead. Anybody? Somebody says, thank you very much. Several people say, thank you very much. Maybe have one question, perhaps. Anybody? So maybe this is a little bit like what we have sometimes when we teach, right? So sometimes students do not have questions. Students are shy to ask questions. But, it's about EMI, so we encourage interaction.
Yeah.
Anybody? Now, in this case, if we do not have any questions, perhaps, Professor Wang, if you could share your email address with everybody. That way, if anybody would like to follow up or maybe send you questions, keep in touch and discuss some issues with you, if you could perhaps share your email address, I think that would be very useful. Yes, and in addition, I think this is, there's the email address, everybody. If you look at the chat box, WANGHC, and then we have, the rest of the National Taiwan Normal University web address for the email of Professor Wang. Then in addition, please, if you could take a few moments and fill out the questionnaire, we would really appreciate that, right? I think this is the message from my staff members. There's a questionnaire link. There's also a QR code. If you would like to scan the QR code or maybe click the link, that will take you to the questionnaire. And please take a few moments and fill out the questionnaire. We will appreciate that very, very much. So in closing, yes, I think it is pretty much 11 o'clock. It is time for us to sign off. I should like to take a moment to thank Professor Wang for his presentation this morning. I know that he has class later today, so he needs to rush from the presentation room where he is now to his classroom, where he will be able to actually practice the things he talked about. All right, he talked about being a good teacher, so I'm sure he will have an opportunity to practice all those skills himself later today. Thank you very much, Professor Wang, and thank you also everybody, all the participants and members of the audience where you are here in Taichung or anywhere else around the country. It was lovely to meet you online today. And if you have any questions, as I said, please get in touch either with us or with Professor Wang. So thank you all very, very much, and have a very pleasant day and a very pleasant weekend. Goodbye.
Thank you, Professor Victor, and
you.
everybody, and you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Roger. I know that you still have a very busy day. We'll follow up via email, because I know you have to probably get ready and catch the, you have to catch the high-speed rail, right? To go to Taipei, right? So
Okay.
take care of that first, and we'll talk later this weekend. All right.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor Victor. Okay.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.
请问一下，那个我要怎么去填写问卷哈？那个 questionnaire link 都联络不到哎。
老师
是，
就是没有办法连上吗？还是？
对，我点它，我不管用 PC 或者是我用那个手机，那个 questionnaire link 我都没有办法，就是 HTTP。那
复制贴上吗？
哈，复制贴上？
不是复制贴上，就是所以打字也没有办法吗？
我没有办法复制，我现在还没有打字，所以我要到 Google Chrome 去把这个网址打上去，是不是？
就是老师，你先试试看打网址的，看能不能处理。对啊 ，QR code 没有办法使用吗？
我 QR code 有用 LINE 去扫描，对不对？
对，
用 LINE 的扫描也没有啊，奇怪，出不来耶。
因为这边是有收到很多回复，所以
好，我再试看看。
好啊，有任何问题的话，就是寄信给我也可以，因为我等一下可能会关掉。
好，
对，
好，
谢谢。
好。